The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Westlake Academy of Music, casting long shadows across the polished wooden floors. Lily clutched her white cane in one hand and her music folder in the other, as her grandmother helped guide her through the unfamiliar hallway. "Are you sure you want to do this today?" Grandmother asked, her voice soft with concern. "We could always come back next week after you've had more time to practice." Lily shook her head, her long dark hair swaying with the movement. "No, I'm ready now," she said, trying to keep her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "The auditions are only held once per semester. If I miss today, I'll have to wait months to try again." At 16, Lily had been playing piano for nearly 10 years, her fingers finding comfort and expression in the ivory keys she could no longer see. She had lost her sight at age 7 after a rare illness, but instead of letting darkness consume her world, she had turned to music. The piano became her voice, her canvas, her window to a world of sound and emotion that needed no visual cues. As they approached the auditorium, the sounds of other students warming up drifted through the air. Scales being practiced, nervous laughter, the squeak of chairs being arranged. Lily took a deep breath, inhaling the familiar scent of wood polish and sheet music that seemed to permeate all music rooms. "The sign-in table should be just ahead," Grandmother said, slowing her pace. "There's a woman with glasses sitting there. She's looking at us now." "Welcome to the choir auditions," the woman greeted them warmly. "Are you here to try out?" "Yes," Lily replied, standing a little straighter. "I'm Lily Wong. I'm registered for the 10:30 slot." "Ah, yes, I have you right here." The scratching of pen on paper followed. "You've noted that you'll be playing your own accompaniment?" "That's right. I play piano." There was a pause, and Lily knew without seeing that the woman was looking at her white cane, making the connection. "Well, that's wonderful," the woman said finally, her voice carrying that extra note of encouragement that Lily had come to recognize from people when they realized she was blind. "The choir director is Mr. Reynolds. He's new this year. Came to us from the National Symphony Orchestra. Very talented, but..." She lowered her voice. "Between us, a bit demanding. Don't let him intimidate you." "I won't," Lily promised, though her heart beat a little faster. They found seats in the back of the auditorium, listening as other students took their turns. Some sang beautifully. Others nervously stumbled through their pieces. After each performance, Mr. Reynolds would offer brief comments, sometimes encouraging, sometimes brutally honest. "Your pitch control needs significant work," he told one student. "Adequate technical ability, but lacking emotional depth," he said to another. When a particularly confident boy finished his piece, Mr. Reynolds merely nodded and said, "Next time, choose something that actually challenges you." As Lily listened, she mentally rehearsed her piece, her fingers silently moving through the motions on her lap. She had chosen to play and sing Hallelujah, not the most original choice perhaps, but a song she felt deep in her soul, one that showcased both her voice and her piano skills. "Number 23, Lily Wong," called a crisp voice from the front. "That's you, honey," her grandmother whispered, squeezing her hand. "You'll be amazing." Lily unfolded her cane and stood. "Would you mind walking me to the piano?" she asked her grandmother, who immediately took her arm. Together they made their way down the center aisle, every step echoing in the suddenly quiet room. When they reached the front, Lily could feel dozens of eyes on her. The heavy silence told her that people had noticed her cane, had realized she couldn't see. It was a reaction she had grown used to over the years, that moment of recognition, followed by curiosity, followed usually by pity. "Ms. Wong," came a man's voice, deep and refined. "I'm Mr. Reynolds." "Hello, sir," Lily said, turning toward his voice. "Thank you for the opportunity to audition today. You'll be playing your own accompaniment?" There was a note of skepticism in his tone. "Yes, sir." "Very well." The sound of papers shuffling. "Your grandmother can return to her seat now." Lily felt her grandmother's hand slip away from her arm with a final reassuring squeeze. Then she was alone at the front of the room, standing beside what she presumed was the piano. "The piano is directly to your right," Mr. Reynolds instructed, his tone clipped and professional. "You may begin whenever you're ready." Lily reached out, finding the edge of the instrument and then the bench. She sat down carefully, adjusted her position, and placed her hands lightly on the keys to orient herself. The piano was different from the one she practiced on at home. a grand piano with a heavier touch. She played a quiet chord to get a feel for it. "We don't have all day, Ms. Wong," came Mr. Reynolds' voice, closer now. He must have moved to stand near the piano. From somewhere in the audience, someone whispered loudly enough for her to hear, "Does he realize she's blind?" "Of course I realize she's blind," Mr. Reynolds answered sharply. "Being visually impaired doesn't exempt one from the time constraints of an audition. In fact, Ms. Wong, in the real world of professional music, you'll find no special accommodations. The question is whether you can perform at the level this choir demands despite your limitations." The room went deadly quiet. Lily's cheeks burned, but she kept her face composed. This wasn't the first time someone had underestimated her. "I understand, sir," she replied evenly. "May I have just a moment to familiarize myself with this piano? It's different from what I'm used to." A sigh. 30 seconds. Lily ran her fingers lightly across the keys, playing a quick scale, testing the action and the pedals. The piano was beautiful, probably expensive and well-maintained. At least that was in her favor. "Your time is up. Miss Wong, please begin." Lily took a deep breath, centered herself, and began to play the opening chords of Hallelujah. The piano responded beautifully to her touch, the notes ringing clear and true in the auditorium. But before she could even begin to sing, Mr. Reynolds interrupted. "Stop, please." The sharpness in his voice made her fingers freeze on the keys. "What tempo do you think you're playing at?" Lily hesitated. That was at least 20 beats per minute slower than standard. "Are you familiar with the actual tempo marking for this piece?" "I am," Lily replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "I chose to take it a bit slower to emphasize the—" "Ms. Wong," he cut her off. "This is a choir audition, not an interpretive piano recital. If you can't maintain proper tempo, how do you expect to keep pace with an entire choir?" Someone in the audience made a small sound of protest, quickly silenced. "Let me ask you something," Mr. Reynolds continued, his voice moving as if he was pacing. "How exactly do you read music?" The question hung in the air. Lily swallowed hard. "I memorize it," she answered honestly. "I have someone read the notes to me, or I listen to recordings and work it out by ear." "I see." The two words dripped with doubt. "And how would you follow my conducting during an actual performance?" "I would memorize the tempo and dynamics during rehearsals," Lily explained, her confidence beginning to waver under his relentless questioning. "I can follow audio cues from the other singers and—" "Ms. Wong," he interrupted again, his voice softer now but somehow more cutting. "I appreciate your enthusiasm, but this is an advanced choir that performs complex arrangements, often with tempo changes and dynamic shifts throughout. We regularly perform at competitions and civic events. The choir members must be able to follow my direction instantly, not rely on memorization or cues from others. Do you understand what I'm saying?" What he was saying without actually saying it was that he didn't believe she could do it, that her blindness made her unsuitable. Lily's throat tightened, but she refused to let tears form. "Sir," she managed, "if you would just let me finish my audition piece, I think we've heard enough to make an assessment," he said dismissively. "Thank you for coming in today. Next." For a moment, Lily couldn't move. She sat frozen at the piano, her fingers still poised over the keys, the music she hadn't been allowed to play burning inside her. The auditorium had gone completely silent. No whispers, no shuffling, nothing but the heavy weight of collective discomfort. "Mr. Reynolds," came a woman's voice, the lady from the sign-in table. "Our policy is to allow each student to complete their prepared piece." A pause, then Mr. Reynolds cleared his throat. "Very well, Ms. Wong, you may continue. Please try to maintain proper tempo this time." Lily's hands were trembling now, but she placed them back on the keys. She could walk away. Part of her wanted to, but another part, the stronger part, refused to be dismissed without being heard. She began again, forcing herself to play at the tempo he wanted, though it felt rushed to her, robbing the song of its soulfulness. As she played the introduction, she could feel Mr. Reynolds' impatience like a physical presence beside her. Just as she opened her mouth to begin singing, she heard him mutter, barely audible, "This is wasting everyone's time." Something snapped inside Lily then, not in defeat but in defiance. If this was her only chance, she would make it count. She wouldn't let this man's narrow vision define what she could accomplish. Her grandmother's words from years ago echoed in her mind. "When people can't see who you truly are, make them hear it instead." It was time to make them hear. Lily's fingers hovered over the piano keys for just a moment. The auditorium around her was silent except for someone coughing nervously in the back row. She could feel Mr. Reynolds standing beside the piano, his impatience radiating like heat. She began playing again, this time at the faster tempo he demanded. The notes came quickly, her fingers moving with practiced precision, but something felt wrong. The music sounded hollow, robbed of the emotion that made Hallelujah so powerful. This wasn't how the song was meant to be played. When she began to sing, her voice came out thin and uncertain. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. Stop. Mr. Reynolds cut in again, his voice sharp as a knife. Your pitch is wavering and you're still dragging the tempo despite my correction. Lily's cheeks burned with embarrassment. She could hear students whispering, some in sympathy, others with amusement. This was turning into exactly the kind of humiliation she had feared. Perhaps we could try a different piece, Mr. Reynolds suggested, his tone making it clear he had little hope for improvement. Something simpler? Mary Had a Little Lamb, perhaps? A few students tittered in response. The mocking suggestion stung worse than outright rejection. Lily bit her lip, fighting back tears. She hadn't cried in public since the early days after losing her sight, and she wasn't about to start now. I don't think that will be necessary, she said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. I know this piece. I just need to— Ms. Wong, Mr. Reynolds interrupted. This choir performs complex arrangements at a professional level. We don't have time to accommodate students who require special handling or multiple attempts. The winter concert is in 12 weeks, and we need singers who can keep up from day one. The dismissal in his voice was unmistakable. Lily felt a familiar heaviness settling in her chest, the weight of being underestimated yet again. Throughout her life, people had been putting limits on what she could accomplish, always with the same condescending kindness disguised as concern. But then she heard her grandmother's voice from the back of the room. Let her play her way. The words weren't shouted, but they carried through the auditorium with quiet authority. Excuse me? Mr. Reynolds responded, clearly unused to being challenged. Let her play the song her way. Her grandmother repeated louder now. You haven't even given her a chance to show what she can do. Ma'am, I appreciate your support for your granddaughter, but I'm the musical director here. I determine how— 1 minute, came another voice, the woman from the sign-in table. Our policy states each student gets a minimum of 1 minute for their prepared piece without interruption. A heavy silence followed. Lily could almost picture Mr. Reynolds weighing his options, his authority challenged in front of potential choir members. Fine, he said finally. 1 minute uninterrupted. Lily took a deep breath, gathering her courage. 1 minute wasn't enough to play the entire song, but it was enough to show what she could do. If this was her only chance, she wouldn't waste it playing by someone else's rules. She placed her hands on the keys again, this time with determination rather than nervousness. Then she began to play, not at Mr. Reynolds' demanded tempo, but at her own pace. Slow, deliberate, each note given room to breathe and resonate. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. Her voice was quiet at first, but grew stronger with each word. She poured everything into the performance, all the frustration of being dismissed, all the years of proving herself over and over, all the joy she found in music when the rest of the world was darkness. But you don't really care for music, do you? Lily could feel the quality of the silence around her changing. The whispers had stopped. Even Mr. Reynolds had gone still beside her. She continued through the first verse and into the chorus, her fingers finding the keys without hesitation, her voice rising and falling with the emotion of the lyrics. For this 1 minute, she wasn't a blind girl struggling to fit in. She was simply a musician, speaking the universal language of music. As she played the final chord of the chorus, she knew her minute was up. She let the notes hang in the air, then slowly lifted her hands from the keys. The silence that followed was absolute. Then, from somewhere in the middle of the auditorium, someone started clapping. Others joined in, the applause spreading until it filled the room. Someone even whistled. That's enough, Mr. Reynolds said, his voice cutting through the applause. The clapping died down awkwardly. Lily sat perfectly still, waiting for his verdict. Ms. Wong, he began, his tone unreadable. That was— He paused, and in that pause, Lily prepared herself for another dismissal. Not at all what I asked for. The room went quiet again. Lily nodded slightly, accepting what she had known was coming. You ignored my direction on tempo. You prioritized emotional interpretation over technical precision. And you... He stopped again, and when he continued, his voice had changed subtly. You made a very deliberate artistic choice. Lily's head came up in surprise. It wasn't what I asked for, he repeated. But it was effective in its way. It wasn't exactly praise, but it wasn't rejection either. Lily didn't know how to respond. However, Mr. Reynolds continued, his professional tone returning. This doesn't change the practical challenges. How do you propose to follow direction during rehearsals? How will you read sheet music when we introduce new pieces every week? This isn't a solo recital. It's a choir where precise coordination is essential. These were fair questions, not asked mockingly this time, but with genuine concern. Lily had prepared for them. I learn music very quickly by ear, she explained. I can memorize a piece after hearing it just a few times. As for following direction, I can work with another choir member who could give me subtle cues if needed. I've done this before in my previous school. That puts an unfair burden on other students, Mr. Reynolds pointed out. I've found partners who don't mind, Lily countered. And once I know a piece, I rarely need reminders. Mr. Reynolds was quiet for a moment, considering. When he spoke again, his tone was challenging but not unkind. You say you learn quickly by ear. Prove it, sir. I'm going to play something. Listen carefully. Lily heard him move to the piano. She stood and stepped aside, giving him access to the keyboard. He played a complex sequence of chords, a progression she didn't recognize from any song she knew. It lasted about 15 seconds. Now you, he said when he finished. Lily took her place at the piano again. She took a moment to replay the sequence in her mind, then placed her fingers on the keys and repeated what she had heard, perfectly, note for note. There was a murmur of appreciation from the audience. Again, Mr. Reynolds said, and played something different, faster, more complicated. Again, Lily reproduced it flawlessly. One more, he said, and this time played a brief classical piece, something from Bach, she thought, though she couldn't name it. It was nearly 30 seconds long with intricate fingerwork. Lily hesitated only briefly before playing it back. She missed 2 notes in the middle section, but quickly corrected herself and finished strongly. When she finished, Mr. Reynolds didn't immediately speak. Lily could hear him breathing, thinking, "That's a remarkable gift," he said finally. "But memorization is only one aspect of musicianship. Being part of this choir requires discipline, the ability to take direction, and a commitment to the group over individual expression." Lily nodded, understanding what he was saying. "I know that, sir. I'm not asking for special treatment, just a fair chance to contribute. I can follow direction. I just need to receive it in a way that works for me. And if I determine that doesn't work for the choir, then I'll accept your decision," Lily said quietly. "But please make it based on my abilities, not your assumptions about my limitations." The auditorium was silent again. Lily could feel dozens of eyes on her, waiting to see what would happen next. "Stand up," Mr. Reynolds said suddenly. Confused, Lily stood, turned to face the audience. She turned, facing the direction of the seated students. "This is what a choir member looks like," Mr. Reynolds said, his voice projecting to fill the room. "Someone who advocates for themselves, someone who persists despite obstacles, someone who makes artistic choices and can defend them." Lily stood perfectly still, hardly daring to breathe. "I don't make exceptions to my standards," he continued, "but I do recognize that standards can be met in different ways. Ms. Wong, you'll need to work twice as hard as anyone else in this room. You'll need to find solutions to challenges I can't even anticipate yet. Are you prepared to do that?" "Yes, sir," Lily said without hesitation. "Then be here Monday after school for the first rehearsal. We'll see how it goes." It wasn't a wholehearted welcome, but it was an opportunity. More than she had expected just minutes earlier. Lily nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. "Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. I won't let you down." "See that you don't," he replied, his tone suggesting he was still far from convinced. "You can return to your seat now, next." As Lily made her way back up the center aisle using her cane to navigate, she could hear students whispering as she passed. Not mocking whispers this time, but excited, impressed ones. "Did you hear her play that back? How did she do that? That was amazing." When she reached her grandmother, The older woman squeezed her hand. "You did it," she whispered. "For now," Lily whispered back. "This is just the beginning." She had earned a chance, nothing more. Mr. Reynolds had made it clear he still had doubts. The real challenge was yet to come. But for the first time in a long while, Lily felt something she had almost forgotten. The thrill of being recognized not for what she couldn't do, but for what she could. Monday afternoon arrived faster than Lily had expected. Her grandmother dropped her off at the front entrance of Westlake Academy, promising to return in 2 hours. "Remember," she told Lily as they parted, "you earned your spot just like everyone else." "Not exactly like everyone else," Lily replied, gripping her cane a little tighter. "Mr. Reynolds made it clear I'm on probation." Her grandmother squeezed her shoulder. "Then show him what you can do. One day at a time." Lily made her way to the music room, having memorized the route during a weekend visit with the school counselor. 15 steps down the main hallway, right turn, 22 steps to the water fountain. Left turn, 18 steps to the double doors of the music department. Her cane tapped lightly along the floor, alerting her to obstacles. She could hear voices ahead, other students already gathering for rehearsal. As she approached the music room, the chatter dimmed. She felt the familiar weight of eyes on her, evaluating, curious, perhaps skeptical. Taking a deep breath, she entered. "Ah, Ms. Wong," came Mr. Reynolds' voice from across the room. "Right on time. Find a seat in the soprano section, please." Lily hesitated at the doorway. "Could someone show me where that is?" "I'll help." A girl's voice came from nearby, followed by approaching footsteps. "I'm Tina. I sing soprano too." "Thanks," Lily said gratefully as Tina gently touched her elbow, guiding her to the risers where the soprano sat. "Everyone, take your seats," Mr. Reynolds called. "We have a lot to cover today." Papers rustled as sheet music was distributed. Lily sat with her hands folded in her lap, waiting. No one brought her any music. "Today we'll begin work on our winter concert program," Mr. Reynolds announced. "Our centerpiece will be a contemporary arrangement of Carol of the Bells with some challenging harmonies. Take a moment to look through the music." More rustling of papers. Lily remained still, unsure what to do. Mr. Reynolds?" Tina raised her hand. "Lily doesn't have the sheet music." A pause. "Of course," Mr. Reynolds said, as though just remembering. "Ms. Wong, do you have a way to record the rehearsal so you can learn your part?" "Yes, sir." Lily pulled out a small digital recorder from her bag. "I brought this." "Very well. For now, just listen. We'll run through each section slowly first." The rehearsal began. Mr. Reynolds was exacting, stopping frequently to correct pitch or timing. Lily sat quietly, absorbing everything, her recorder running. When the sopranos practiced their part, she listened intently, mentally mapping the notes and rhythms. "All right, let's try the first page all together," Mr. Reynolds said after working with each section separately. "From the top, and remember the dynamic contrast in measure 16. The choir began to sing. Without sheet music or prior practice, Lily remained silent, still learning. After they finished the first run-through, Mr. Reynolds asked, "Any questions before we continue?" "Actually," Lily spoke up, "could I try singing along this time? I think I've got the soprano part for the first page." There was a brief silence. Lily could imagine Mr. Reynolds' skeptical expression. "You believe you've memorized it already?" he asked. "The first page, yes," she said. "If I make mistakes, I'll stop." "Very well," he said, his tone suggesting he expected exactly that outcome. From the top again, everyone. The piano introduction began, and this time, when the sopranos came in, Lily joined them. Her voice blended perfectly with the section, hitting every note, every rhythm exactly as written. She even included the dynamic contrast at measure 16 without prompting. When they finished, there was a moment of surprised silence. "Well," Mr. Reynolds said finally, "it seems Ms. Wong wasn't exaggerating her abilities." Lily felt a small bloom of satisfaction, though she kept her expression neutral. It was only the first page of one song. She still had much to prove. The rehearsal continued. By the end of the hour, Lily had memorized the first 2 pages of music and sung them confidently. Some of the other students gave her encouraging words as they packed up their things. "That was impressive," Tina told her. "It took me 3 days to learn my part for the last concert." "Thanks," Lily said. "Music just makes sense to me, like fitting puzzle pieces together in my mind." As the room cleared out, Lily gathered her belongings and prepared to leave. She could hear Mr. Reynolds at the piano playing softly, perhaps making notes for the next rehearsal. "Ms. Wong," he called as she reached the door. "A moment, please." Lily turned back, her stomach tightening. Had she done something wrong? "Yes, Mr. Reynolds." "Your performance today was adequate," he said, his voice closer now as he approached. "But learning pre-rehearsed parts is the easy challenge. The real test will be adapting when things change." "I understand," Lily said. "I'm ready for that. Are you?" There was a hint of challenge in his voice. "Next week we'll be adding movement to several pieces. How do you propose to handle that?" Lily had anticipated this question. "I'll need someone to help me learn the positions and transitions. Once I know the pattern, I can follow along using audio cues and muscle memory. And if we change the choreography mid-rehearsal?" "Then I'll adapt," Lily said simply. "Or I'll ask for help. I'm not too proud to do that." Mr. Reynolds was quiet for a moment. Lily wished she could see his expression, read what he was thinking. "The winter concert is important to this school," he said finally. "It's attended by board members, donors, parents, people who support our program financially. I can't afford any distractions." The implication was clear. He viewed her as a potential liability, not an asset. "I won't be a distraction," Lily promised. "I'll be prepared for every rehearsal. I'll learn my parts quickly, and I'll find solutions to challenges before they become problems." "That's a significant commitment." "Music is significant to me," Lily replied. Another pause. Then, "Very well, Ms. Wong, I'll see you Wednesday." Lily nodded and turned to leave, but Mr. Reynolds spoke again. "One more thing," he said. "The piano piece you played at your audition, the one you performed after I asked for something simpler. What was that?" Lily turned back, surprised by the question. "It was just Hallelujah," she said. "The Leonard Cohen song?" "No," Mr. Reynolds said. "After your minute was up, you played something else while waiting for your grandmother. Something classical. I heard it from my office." Lily's cheeks warmed. She hadn't realized anyone was listening. After the audition, while waiting in the hallway for her grandmother to use the restroom, she had found an empty practice room with a piano and played to calm her nerves. "That was Chopin," she said. "Nocturne in E-flat major, Opus 9, No. 2. You play it well," Mr. Reynolds said, an odd note in his voice that Lily couldn't quite identify. "Where did you study?" "I haven't had formal training since I lost my sight," Lily admitted. "My piano teacher didn't know how to teach a blind student, so I've mostly learned on my own. I listen to recordings and figure out the notes." "You taught yourself Chopin?" The disbelief was evident in his voice. "Yes," Lily said simply. "Music makes sense to me in a way other things don't. When I listen to a piece enough times, my fingers just know where to go." Mr. Reynolds was silent again, longer this time. When he spoke, his voice had changed slightly. "The school has a recital next month. Solo performances by our most advanced students. If you're interested, I could add you to the program. Something simple, perhaps, given your self-taught status." The offer surprised Lily. It seemed unlike Mr. Reynolds to extend an opportunity he wasn't confident she could handle. "Thank you," she said carefully, "but I don't need something simple. I could play the Chopin." "The Nocturne is challenging even for students with years of formal training," he cautioned. "I know," Lily said. "I can play it." "Very well," Mr. Reynolds said after a brief hesitation. "Prove it." "The piano is right here." Lily hesitated. This felt like another test, one she hadn't prepared for. But maybe that was the point, to see how she handled unexpected challenges. She moved toward the sound of his voice until her cane touched the base of the piano. Setting her bag down, she found the bench and sat, positioning her hands over the keys. She took a deep breath, cleared her mind, and began to play. The nocturne flowed from her fingers as naturally as breathing. She didn't just play the notes, she felt them, each one a color in the darkness, painting a picture only she could see. The melody soared and dipped, delicate and powerful at once. She added her own subtle interpretations, a slight lingering on a particular note, a gentle emphasis on a phrase that spoke to her. When she finished, the final notes hung in the air like stars. Mr. Reynolds didn't speak immediately. Lily sat still, waiting, her hands resting lightly on the keys. "Who taught you to interpret the piece that way?" he asked finally, his voice oddly subdued. "No one," Lily answered honestly. "I just play it how it feels right to me." without any guidance on the composer's intentions, on proper classical technique? I've listened to many different recordings, Lily explained. Rubinstein, Ashkenazi, Kissin. I borrow what I like from each and add what feels true to me. That's not how classical music is taught, Mr. Reynolds said, but the usual sharpness was missing from his voice. I know, Lily said softly, but it's how I learned. Another long silence followed. Lily could hear Mr. Reynolds breathing, could almost feel him reassessing everything he had assumed about her. The recital is on October 15th, he said finally. You'll need to play from memory, of course. Lily smiled slightly at the irony. That won't be a problem. No, Mr. Reynolds agreed, a new note of respect in his voice. I don't imagine it will be. As Lily gathered her things to leave, she felt something had shifted between them. Not friendship, not quite acceptance yet, but a crack in the wall of his preconceptions. It was a beginning. Outside, her grandmother was waiting. How was rehearsal? She asked as Lily approached. Interesting, Lily said, a small smile playing at her lips. I think Mr. Reynolds is starting to see me differently. Oh? He asked me to play in the school recital next month. Her grandmother squeezed her hand. I knew he would recognize your talent eventually. I'm not sure he does yet, Lily said thoughtfully. But I think he's beginning to question what he believes is possible. And that's a start. The weeks leading up to the recital passed in a blur of rehearsals, practice sessions, and homework. Lily threw herself into preparation, spending every spare moment at the piano. Her grandmother worried she was pushing herself too hard, but Lily insisted she was fine. This is my chance to show everyone what I can really do, she explained one evening as they sat at the dinner table. Not just Mr. Reynolds, but the whole school. I understand that, her grandmother said gently. But you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. Lily shook her head. It's not about proving myself. It's about opening doors, for me and maybe for others too. She pushed her plate away, only half eaten. I should practice more tonight. The recital's only 10 days away. Her grandmother sighed but didn't argue. She recognized the determination in her granddaughter's voice, the same determination that had gotten her through the darkest days after losing her sight. At school, things were slowly changing. Choir rehearsals had become less of an ordeal as Lily consistently demonstrated her ability to learn music quickly and perform it well. Mr. Reynolds still pushed her hard, but the mockery had been replaced by a gruff sort of respect. He had even started providing recordings of new pieces in advance so she could prepare. The other students had warmed to her too. Tina had become a friend, helping Lily navigate the school and describing visual cues during rehearsals. A few others had approached her after hearing her play the piano during breaks, asking how she learned music without seeing the notes. It's like having a map in my head, she tried to explain. I can hear where each note should go, how they fit together. That's amazing, one boy said. I've been taking lessons for 10 years and I still have to stare at the sheet music the whole time. These small connections meant more to Lily than she let on. At her previous school, she had often felt isolated, marked as different by her blindness. Here, for the first time, people were starting to see beyond that, to recognize her as a musician first, a blind girl second. 1 week before the recital, Mr. Reynolds asked her to stay after choir practice. How is your preparation coming along? He asked when the other students had gone. Good, Lily said. I practice the nocturne every day. Show me, he said, gesturing toward the piano before remembering she couldn't see the gesture. Play it for me now, please. Lily moved to the piano and began to play. The piece flowed from her fingers even more smoothly than before, each note precise yet emotional. When she finished, she waited for Mr. Reynolds's critique. Instead of speaking immediately, he pulled up a chair and sat beside the piano bench. Ms. Wong, he said, his voice different somehow, less formal, more thoughtful. May I ask you something personal? Lily nodded, surprised by the request. When you play, he said, what do you see? In your mind, I mean. It was such an unexpected question that Lily took a moment to consider her answer. Colors, she said finally. Different notes have different colors for me. Always have, even before I lost my sight. C is a deep blue. G is forest green. E flat is gold. She paused. When I play, it's like painting with those colors. Synesthesia, Mr. Reynolds murmured. Is that what it's called? Yes. It's relatively rare, but more common among musicians. He hesitated, then asked, "And when you play Chopin specifically?" Lily smiled slightly. "It's like watching sunrise over water, blues and golds and bits of purple. The colors ripple and change as the piece moves." Mr. Reynolds was quiet for a long moment. "I've been teaching music for 22 years, he said finally. "I've worked with students who had perfect technique, who could play the most challenging pieces flawlessly. But many of them never really understood what they were playing." Another pause. "You understand the music in a way few people do." Lily didn't know how to respond to the unexpected compliment. "Thank you," she said simply. "Don't thank me yet." Mr. Reynolds replied, his usual briskness returning. "Your technique still needs refinement. Your left hand is sometimes too heavy, and your tempo varies more than Chopin intended." He stood up. "But the musical instinct is there. It can't be taught, that instinct. It can only be nurtured." Before Lily could respond, he continued, "I've made a change to the recital program. You'll be playing last." Lily's breath caught. The final slot in a recital was usually reserved for the most accomplished performer. The showcase piece. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I don't make program changes lightly, Ms. Wong," he said, and she could hear a hint of his old impatience. "Be prepared to play your best. The audience will include several board members and at least one reporter from the local paper." With that, he walked away, his footsteps echoing in the empty room. Lily sat very still, processing what had just happened. From mockery at her audition to the closing spot in the recital, the transformation seemed almost unbelievable. Part of her wondered if this was some kind of test, if Mr. Reynolds was setting her up to fail on a bigger stage. But another part, a stronger part, recognized the opportunity for what it was, a chance to be judged solely on her music, not her disability. The night of the recital arrived clear and cool. October had painted the trees in reds and golds, though Lily could only remember these colors from the time before darkness. Her grandmother described the scene as they walked from the parking lot to the school auditorium. "The place is packed," she whispered as they entered the lobby. "Standing room only from the look of it." Lily nodded, trying to calm the butterflies in her stomach. She was used to playing alone in her room, or with just her grandmother listening. Even the choir performances hadn't prepared her for a solo recital in front of hundreds of people. "You'll be wonderful," her grandmother assured her, squeezing her hand. "Just play like you always do." Backstage, the other performers were warming up, talking nervously, adjusting their formal wear. Lily stood quietly in her simple black dress, listening to the sounds of the gathering audience through the curtain. "There you are." Mr. Reynolds' voice came from behind her. "The green room is this way. All performers should be there until called." He led her to a small room where the other students were waiting. The nervous chatter dimmed as they entered, then resumed. Lily found an empty chair and sat down, folding her hands in her lap. "Are you nervous?" Tina asked, sitting down beside her. "Terrified," Lily admitted with a small laugh. "You'll do great," Tina assured her. "I heard you practicing yesterday. It was beautiful." "Thanks," Lily said. "I just hope I don't forget the notes with everyone watching." "You won't," Tina said confidently. "Besides, you're closing the show. By then everyone will be too tired to notice mistakes." They both knew that wasn't true. The final performer received the most scrutiny. But Lily appreciated the attempt to lighten the mood. One by one, the students were called to perform. Lily listened to each piece, recognizing the hours of practice behind them. Some performances were technically perfect, but somehow mechanical. Others had small flaws but conveyed genuine emotion. She wondered how hers would compare. Finally, only Lily remained in the green room. Her hands were cold despite the warmth of the building. She rubbed them together, trying to keep her fingers limber. The door opened. "It's time, Ms. Wong," Mr. Reynolds said. He guided her to the wings of the stage where they paused. Applause was fading from the previous performance. "Remember?" Mr. Reynolds said quietly. "The piano is 10 steps forward, centered on the stage. The bench is pulled out slightly for you. Once seated, take a moment to orient yourself before beginning." Lily nodded, her throat too dry for words. "And Ms. Wong," he added, "play it as you feel it, not as you think I want to hear it." It was perhaps the most surprising thing he had said to her yet. Before she could respond, he was announcing her to the audience. "Our final performer tonight is a new student to Westlake Academy. She will be playing Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major." That was her cue. Lily took a deep breath and walked onto the stage, her cane tapping softly against the wooden floor. The audience was completely silent as she found her way to the piano. Her fingers found the keys, familiar and reassuring. She took another breath and began to play. From the first note, something was different. Perhaps it was the acoustics of the auditorium, or the quality of the grand piano, or simply the energy of the moment. The music seemed to flow not just from her fingers, but from somewhere deeper, as if the nocturne were playing itself through her. The colors bloomed in her mind, more vivid than ever before, deep blues melting into golds, hints of purple and green shimmering at the edges. She was barely aware of her fingers moving, conscious only of the music and the colors and the perfect stillness of the audience. When the final notes faded, that stillness held for one heartbeat, 2, 3. Then the auditorium erupted. The applause was immediate and overwhelming, washing over her like a wave. Someone shouted, "Bravo!" Others joined in. There was the sound of people standing, the applause growing even louder. Lily sat motionless at the piano, trying to absorb what was happening. This wasn't polite appreciation. This was something else entirely. She stood and turned toward the audience, bowing as she had been taught. The applause continued, showing no signs of stopping. After what seemed like forever, she felt a hand on her elbow. Mr. Reynolds, guiding her to the center of the stage. "Take another bow," he instructed, his voice almost lost in the noise. "They're giving you a standing ovation." Lily bowed again, emotion threatening to overwhelm her. All these people applauding for her music, not pitying her or making allowances for her blindness, just responding to her playing. As Mr. Reynolds led her off stage, the applause still continuing behind them, he said something that she barely caught. "I was wrong about you. Ms. Wong, I owe you an apology." In the wings, her grandmother was waiting, tears in her voice as she hugged Lily tightly. "They loved you," she whispered. "Everyone loved you." But it was Mr. Reynolds' words that echoed in Lily's mind. Not because she needed his approval, but because they represented something more significant. A mind changed, a barrier broken. "Would you play an encore?" he asked, surprising her again. "They won't stop applauding until you do." Lily nodded, happiness bubbling up inside her. "I know just the piece," she said. As she walked back onto the stage, the applause swelled once more. This time, she found the piano without hesitation, her movements confident and sure. She began to play Hallelujah, the piece from her audition, the one Mr. Reynolds had dismissed. But this time she played it her way from the start, slow and soulful and filled with all the emotion of the journey that had brought her to this moment. The morning after the recital, Lily woke to the sound of her grandmother talking on the phone in the kitchen. She lay in bed for a moment, replaying the previous night in her mind, the music, the applause, the feeling of finally being seen for her talent rather than her disability. "Yes, that's right," her grandmother was saying. "She's been playing since she was 6. No formal training since she lost her sight at 7. Yes, it is remarkable." Curious, Lily got up and made her way to the kitchen. "Who are you talking to, Gran?" "Hold on a moment," her grandmother said into the phone, then covered the receiver. "It's the reporter from the local paper. The one who was at your recital last night. She wants to interview you." "Me?" Lily was surprised. School recitals rarely got media attention. "Your performance made quite an impression," her grandmother said, pride evident in her voice. "She's writing a feature article about you." "I don't know what to say in an interview," Lily protested. "Just be yourself," her grandmother advised, then returned to the phone. "Yes, she's available this afternoon. 4 o'clock would be perfect. We'll see you then." After her grandmother hung up, Lily sat at the kitchen table trying to process this new development. "I never expected any of this," she said quietly. Her grandmother placed a cup of tea in front of her. "You've worked hard for it, though. And after the way Mr. Reynolds treated you at first, well, this feels like justice." Lily wrapped her hands around the warm cup. "He apologized last night. Mr. Reynolds, I mean. After my performance, did he now?" Her grandmother didn't sound surprised. "Good. He needed to. I think he genuinely didn't believe I could do it," Lily said thoughtfully. "Not because he's a bad person, but because he couldn't imagine how music works for me." "Some people have very fixed ideas about what's possible," her grandmother agreed. "It takes a lot to change their minds." "Maybe that's why this matters," Lily said, realization dawning. Not just for me, but for the next person who comes along with a different way of doing things. The phone rang again before her grandmother could respond. This time, Lily listened more closely to her grandmother's side of the conversation. Yes, this is Lily Wong's grandmother. Oh, Mr. Reynolds, good morning. Yes, she's right here. She held out the phone. It's your choir director. Lily took the phone, curious about why Mr. Reynolds would be calling on a Saturday morning. Hello? Ms. Wong, he said, his voice as formal as ever despite the events of the previous night. I'm calling because there's been a development I think you should know about. What kind of development? Lily asked, immediately concerned that he was going to retract his apology or find some new reason to doubt her abilities. After your performance last night, I was approached by Dr. Chen from the Regional Arts Council. She was quite impressed. Lily waited, unsure where this was going. Dr. Chen runs a special program at the State Conservatory for exceptionally talented young musicians. Mr. Reynolds continued. She's asked if you would be interested in an audition. The phone nearly slipped from Lily's hand. The State Conservatory was one of the most prestigious music schools in the country. Students who trained there often went on to professional careers at the highest levels. An audition? She repeated, hardly believing what she was hearing. Yes. Normally, these opportunities are only available to students who have been studying with recognized masters for years. But Dr. Chen believes your natural talent warrants an exception. He paused. I agreed with her assessment. Lily couldn't speak. This was beyond anything she had imagined possible. The audition would be next month, Mr. Reynolds continued when she didn't respond. You would need to prepare 3 pieces, 1 classical, 1 romantic, and 1 contemporary. Dr. Chen suggested the Chopin Nocturne could fulfill the romantic requirement. As she was quite taken with your interpretation, I don't know what to say, Lily managed finally. You should know that the conservatory has never had a blind student in this particular program, Mr. Reynolds said, his tone matter-of-fact rather than discouraging. It would present unique challenges. I'm used to challenges, Lily said, finding her voice. Yes, Mr. Reynolds agreed, and she thought she detected a hint of amusement. I've noticed that about you. After discussing a few more details, they ended the call. Lily sat at the kitchen table, stunned, as she relayed the conversation to her grandmother. The State Conservatory, her grandmother breathed. Oh, Lily, what an opportunity. Do you think I should try? Lily asked. Mr. Reynolds said they've never had a blind student before. Then it's about time they did, her grandmother said firmly. You can't let fear of being the first hold you back. It's not just that, Lily admitted. What if I'm not good enough? These would be students who've had professional training their whole lives. Her grandmother was quiet for a moment. Remember what you told me after your first choir rehearsal? That Mr. Reynolds was starting to question what was possible. Maybe that's what this is all about, not just proving what you can do, but expanding what everyone believes is possible. Lily considered this. I'd need to practice even harder than before. And I'll be right here supporting you, her grandmother assured her. The following Monday at school, Lily found herself the center of attention. Students she'd never spoken to before came up to congratulate her on her performance. Several teachers made a point of telling her how much they had enjoyed the recital. In choir practice, the atmosphere had changed too. Mr. Reynolds was his usual demanding self, but there was a new respect in the way he addressed Lily. Ms. Wong, he said near the end of rehearsal, I'd like you to play for the solo section in our closing number for the winter concert. You'll need to work with the soloist to develop appropriate dynamics. It wasn't a request, but an assignment, the kind he might give to any talented pianist in the group. Lily appreciated that more than effusive praise. Yes, Mr. Reynolds, she said simply. After practice, Tina caught up with her in the hallway. Is it true? She asked excitedly. Are you really auditioning for the conservatory program? News traveled fast in a small school. Yes, Lily confirmed. Next month. That's amazing, Tina said. No one from our school has ever even been invited to audition before. I'm nervous about it, Lily admitted. You'll be great, Tina assured her. Everyone's talking about your recital performance. My mom said it was the most moving thing she's ever heard at a school event. As the weeks passed, Lily's life fell into a new rhythm. School and choir during the day, intense piano practice in the evenings and on weekends. special coaching sessions with Mr. Reynolds, who had volunteered to help her prepare for the audition. These sessions revealed a different side of the choir director. Away from the pressure of rehearsals, he was more patient, more willing to explain his thinking. He never lowered his standards. If anything, he pushed Lily even harder than before. But there was a collaborative quality to their work now. The Bach needs more precision, he would say. Each note distinct, like pearls on a string. Again, please, from measure 16. Or, in the Debussy, you're rushing the arpeggios. Let them breathe. Each one should evaporate into the next. Lily absorbed everything, integrating his technical advice with her intuitive understanding of the music. Sometimes they would spend an entire hour on just a few measures, working to perfect a particular phrase or transition. You have remarkable focus, Mr. Reynolds observed during one such session. Most students your age would have given up half an hour ago. Music is worth the effort, Lily replied simply. Mr. Reynolds was quiet for a moment. I believe I owe you an explanation, he said finally, about my behavior when you first auditioned. Lily turned toward his voice, surprised by the shift in conversation. It wasn't just ignorance about how a blind musician might function, he continued, though that was part of it. It was also fear. Fear? Lily couldn't imagine what the formidable Mr. Reynolds might fear from a 16-year-old blind girl. Fear of failure, he clarified. Not yours, mine. I've built my reputation on musical excellence. The thought of integrating a student with special needs into a competitive program, I worried it would compromise what I've worked to achieve. He paused, then added, I was wrong. Your presence has not only maintained our standards, it has raised them. The other students work harder now, inspired by your example, and I've had to examine my own assumptions about what makes a musician great. It was perhaps the longest personal speech Lily had ever heard from him. She didn't know how to respond. Thank you for telling me, she said finally. Well, Mr. Reynolds said, his usual brisk tone returning. Enough of that. Back to the Debussy. From the beginning, the day of the conservatory audition arrived cold and clear. Lily dressed carefully in the outfit she and her grandmother had chosen. A simple dark blue dress that felt both professional and comfortable. Her grandmother drove her to the imposing State Conservatory building downtown. It's a beautiful old stone building, her grandmother described as they approached. Tall columns at the entrance. There's a statue of Bach near the front steps. Inside, the building smelled of wood polish and history. Their footsteps echoed on marble floors as they were led to a waiting area. Other young musicians sat with their parents, some practicing silently with fingers on laps, others staring nervously into space. Lily was surprised to hear a familiar voice. Ms. Wong, Mr. Reynolds greeted her. Right on time, Mr. Reynolds. I didn't expect to see you here. Dr. Chen invited me to observe the auditions, he explained. I hope that's acceptable. Of course, Lily said, touched that he had come to support her. When her name was called, her grandmother squeezed her hand and whispered, Play from your heart. The audition room was large, with high ceilings that created a subtle reverb. Lily could sense several people sitting at some distance. The judges, she presumed. Mr. Reynolds guided her to the piano and quietly described the layout of the room. The piano is a Steinway concert grand, he murmured. Slightly heavier action than you're used to, but excellent tone. The judges are seated about 20 feet away. Dr. Chen is in the center. Thank you, Lily whispered. Ms. Wong, came a woman's voice, presumably Dr. Chen. Welcome to the conservatory. We've heard wonderful things about you from Mr. Reynolds. Please begin when you're ready. With your classical piece first. Lily took a deep breath, placed her hands on the keys, and began to play Bach's Prelude in C major. The familiar notes centered her, helping her forget her nervousness. As always, the music created colors in her mind. The Bach was all blues and silvers, precise yet flowing. She moved on to the Chopin Nocturne, the piece that had started this journey. She played it with even more nuance than at the recital, incorporating some of Mr. Reynolds' suggestions while maintaining her personal interpretation. Finally, she performed her contemporary piece, a Debussy arabesque that floated like water, all greens and soft golds in her mind's eye. When she finished, there was silence, then the sound of papers rustling. Thank you, Ms. Wong, Dr. Chen said. That was quite remarkable. Before we conclude, I wonder if you might tell us a bit about your relationship with music. How do you approach learning new pieces without the ability to read sheet music? It was the question Lily had been preparing for. She explained her methods, the memorization, the color associations, the way she mapped pieces in her mind. She spoke honestly about both the challenges and the unexpected advantages of experiencing music without visual distractions. Music has always been more than notes on a page, she concluded. For me, it's a language I can speak and understand without needing to see it written down. There were a few more questions, then the audition was over. As Mr. Reynolds guided her from the room, he said quietly, "Well done. Regardless of their decision, you played beautifully." 2 weeks later, the letter arrived from the conservatory. Lily sat at the kitchen table, hands folded in her lap, as her grandmother opened it. "Dear Ms. Wong," her grandmother read, voice steady, "we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted into the Young Artists program at the State Conservatory." Lily's breath caught. Her grandmother continued reading, detailing the scholarship offer, the special accommodations they would provide, and most surprising of all, an invitation to perform at the conservatory's winter showcase. "They want me to play in the showcase?" Lily repeated, astonished. "The letter says Dr. Chen believes your talent deserves a wider audience," her grandmother confirmed, pride evident in her voice. That evening, Lily called Mr. Reynolds to share the news. "I already heard from Dr. Chen," he said. "Congratulations. It's well deserved." "Thank you," Lily said, "for everything. For helping me prepare, for recommending me, even for doubting me at first." "For doubting you?" Mr. Reynolds sounded surprised. "If you had accepted me right away without question, I might never have pushed myself so hard to prove what I could do," Lily explained. "Sometimes the people who challenge us end up helping us the most." Mr. Reynolds was quiet for a moment. "That's a very mature perspective," he said finally, "and a generous one." "I've been thinking," Lily said, "about other students like me, ones with different abilities or different ways of learning. Would you be open to creating some kind of program at Westlake? Something that would make music more accessible to everyone?" Another pause, longer this time. "You know," Mr. Reynolds said slowly, "in 22 years of teaching, no student has ever changed my thinking quite as much as you have, Ms. Wong." He cleared his throat. "Yes, I would be open to that conversation." After they hung up, Lily sat at her home piano, fingers resting lightly on the keys. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, from a mocked audition to a conservatory scholarship in just a few months. She began to play, softly at first, then with growing confidence. Not Chopin or Bach or Debussy this time, but her own composition, a piece she had been working on in private, one that expressed in music what words could not, the sound of barriers breaking, of minds opening, of the world expanding note by note. As the music filled the room, colors bloomed in her darkness, not just blues and golds now, but every shade imaginable, a rainbow of possibilities spreading out before her.